At my first family gathering as a child, my grandmother leaned down and whispered, "You'll spend your life reaching, but the stars are not for you." I smiled at her wrinkled hands. A century later, when the last building bearing our family name crumbled into dust, my statue was raised in the heart of a city they could no longer afford to visit, and no one remembered hers enough to carve in stone. When I was 6 years old, my world was still small. I thought Franklin, Pennsylvania was the whole world. My mom and I lived in a little rental house a few streets over from the Langfords' big 2-story home, the one with the white pillars and the peeling paint nobody bothered to fix. The first time I remember feeling truly small was that day, at the family gathering. It was the Langford family reunion. Myrtle Langford, my grandmother, was in charge of it all. She had this permanent look on her face like she smelled something bad, but couldn't figure out where it was coming from. She called me over after dinner, right when the sun was setting and the backyard was glowing gold. I ran over, proud to show her the clover chain I'd made. She knelt slow and stiff, her body creaking like an old porch step. Then she whispered into my ear. "You'll spend your life reaching," she said, her voice rough and mean. "But the stars are not for you." I didn't get it. I was a kid. I just smiled at her wrinkled hands and her big ugly rings, and nodded like I understood. Maybe part of me thought it was some kind of joke, some adult thing I wasn't old enough to understand. But it wasn't a joke. It was a warning. I learned real quick that I didn't fit with the Langfords. My mom had married a nobody. My dad was from a broken home up in New York, and even though he tried his best, the Langfords saw him as trash. And by extension, they saw me the same way. They never said it straight to my face. It was more like death by 1,000 small cuts. I got the hand-me-down toys at Christmas. I got the smallest slice of birthday cake. I got left off the guest list for my cousin's sweet 16 party, even though every other Langford cousin was there. When I brought home straight A's, nobody clapped. When I said I wanted to go to college, Myrtle said, "It's good to have dreams, even if they don't come true." I remember once when I was about 10, she pulled my mom aside after a family dinner. I overheard it because I was sneaking around trying to find the leftover pie. "She's got her father's hunger," Myrtle hissed. "All reaching, no roots." By the time I was 16, I had made myself a promise. I would get out, and when I did, I would never come back. I worked my ass off in high school. Honor roll. Debate team. After-school jobs. I applied to every scholarship I could find. I spent nights lying awake, thinking about the look on their faces when I made it, when I became someone they couldn't ignore. I got accepted to Carnegie Mellon on a full ride. I packed my bag the night my acceptance letter came. I didn't wait for anybody to throw me a party. I didn't even tell Myrtle goodbye. College was the first time I ever felt like I could breathe. Nobody there cared about the Langfords. Nobody knew or cared that I came from a family that thought the world ended at the county line. I majored in business, minored in real estate and urban planning. I didn't go to frat parties. I didn't waste time. Every hour I wasn't in class, I was working, delivering pizzas, tutoring, cleaning dorm bathrooms. By 25, I flipped my first property. It was a beat-up old diner in a bad part of Pittsburgh. I got a loan, fixed it up, and sold it for triple what I paid. I remember signing the papers and feeling this dark little flicker inside me. Not happiness, not pride, fuel. I didn't stop. Old warehouses, abandoned factories, boarded up apartment blocks. I bought them cheap, cleaned them up, sold or rented them for more. Every time someone called me lucky, I laughed. Luck had nothing to do with it. Meanwhile, Franklin was rotting. Langford Furnishings tried to hang on, but they were dinosaurs. They didn't adapt. Big box stores rolled in. The internet killed them off even faster. By the time I was 32, they were deep in debt. I read the court notices. I watched the auctions from afar. I could have helped maybe. I had the money, but I didn't. Instead, I waited until the Langford building went up for sale, the same building Myrtle had been so proud of. And I bought it through a shell company. Anonymous. I sent the demolition crew and myself. I didn't even keep a brick. Fast forward. 60 years old. I'm standing in downtown Pittsburgh, a city that had become my playground. The mayor is shaking my hand. A brass band is playing. There are cameras flashing everywhere. Reach Plaza, they called it, named after my company. Behind me, they pulled the cover off a massive bronze statue. It was me. Life-sized but grand. One hand reaching up to the sky. A ring of bronze stars above my head. I caught sight of some of my cousins standing way back in the crowd. They looked worn down. Small. Unimportant. I doubted they even recognized me. I bet they didn't know I was the one who demolished their family legacy. I bet they didn't realize the stars over my head were meant for me, and no one else. And Myrtle? Buried in a forgotten grave outside Franklin? Nobody carved her name in bronze. Nobody remembered her curse. I remembered it, though. Every damn day. After the dedication ceremony, I thought that would be the final chapter. Victory sealed. Story over. I was wrong. About a week later, I got a letter. A real handwritten letter, not an email, not a text. The envelope had no return address, but the handwriting was ugly and familiar. Inside was one line. Blood remembers.
No signature. No explanation.
First I laughed it off. Probably some distant cousin, still pissed about the family business falling apart. Maybe they found out I bought and bulldozed the building. Maybe they heard whispers, put the pieces together. I didn't lose sleep over it. But then weird things started happening. First, small stuff. Someone keyed the side of my car, deep gouges down the driver's door. Then my assistant got an email, a fake whistleblower tip, accusing me of tax fraud. It was total bullshit, but it cost me 3 weeks dealing with auditors and lawyers. Then the worst hit. A blog post popped up, anonymous, dragging my name through the mud. Accusations. Lies. Rumors about me bribing inspectors, stiffing contractors, exploiting tenants. It wasn't true. Most of it anyway. But truth doesn't matter when the internet gets hungry. Suddenly, every deal I was working on started falling apart. Investors pulled back. Banks got jumpy. Even my oldest friends in the industry started ghosting me. I was bleeding money. Fast. I hired a private investigator. Told him to find whoever was behind this. 2 weeks later, he came back with a file. It was thin, but it was enough. Inside were photos of 3 people. Lloyd Langford, my second cousin, worked at a call center now. Angry. Bitter. Broke. Marcy Langford Davis, another cousin. Used to be the golden girl of the family. Now divorced twice, living paycheck to paycheck. Sam Langford, Myrtle's other favorite grandson. The one they all said was going to take the family name national someday. Now living in a trailer outside Erie. They'd gotten together. They figured out I bought the building. They figured out I was the one who killed the Langford legacy. And they wanted revenge. Part of me wanted to let it go. What could they really do? They were nobodies. Bitter, broke, stuck in the past. But another part of me, the part that remembered every Christmas I spent at the kids' table, every time Myrtle looked at me like I was dog shit on her shoe, wanted them crushed. I made a decision. I called a contact, someone who owed me a favor, and set up a little plan. Marcy had just started working at a real estate agency downtown. I leaked a fake story about her falsifying listings. Lloyd, he had a drinking problem. I made sure a DUI checkpoint went up on the road he used to drive home from the bar. Sam was trickier. He barely had anything left to lose. I found out he was trying to start a small business, a car repair garage. I bought the land out from under him, through another shell company. Evicted him before he ever opened the doors. It wasn't enough to beat them. I wanted them to know why. So I sent 3 letters. Handwritten. No return address. Inside each envelope, one line. The stars were never for you either. At first it was quiet. Too quiet. After I sent those letters, I thought maybe that was the end of it. I thought they'd take the hint, lick their wounds, and crawl back into whatever sad little corners they came from. But I had underestimated them. Badly. A month after the eviction, something strange happened. I showed up at the Reach Development offices on a Monday morning, coffee in hand, ready to plow through a brutal day. Except the doors wouldn't open. The locks had been changed. I tried my keycard. Dead. I banged on the glass. Security came down, not my security. Private contractors. New guys. They told me, straight-faced, that they'd been hired by the board to keep me out. I didn't even know there was a board. Turns out, while I'd been busy putting out fires from the smear campaign, the sharks had smelled blood. Some investors, including old so-called friends, had pulled together, declared me unfit to lead, and staged a takeover. They froze my accounts, froze my assets. I was locked out of my own empire. I called my lawyer screaming. He was cool as ice. "There's not much we can do," he said. They were waiting for the right moment. What moment? He hesitated. Right after you retaliated against the Langfords. Someone leaked it to the media. The DUI. The eviction. Marcy's career collapse. It's all tied back to you. I sat there in my car in the parking garage, the heat choking me even with the windows cracked. I wasn't mad they hit back. I was mad they outplayed me. That night, I went back to my penthouse apartment. Half the furniture was gone, repossessed. The place felt hollow like a stage set after the play's over. I poured a glass of whiskey and stared out at the city skyline. The same skyline I had built. The same skyline I was about to lose. I should have seen it coming. I was so focused on making them remember their place, I forgot that hate can be a hell of a motivator. Maybe even stronger than ambition. A week later, the lawsuits started rolling in. Wrongful termination claims. Retaliation suits. Fraud investigations. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was about burning me to the ground. One night, around 2 a.m, I heard a knock at my door. When I opened it, nobody was there, just a box sitting on the welcome mat. Inside the box was a single thing. A rusty old star ornament, the kind you stick on top of a Christmas tree. Attached to it was a note. "Reach higher." No signature. No explanation. But I knew who it was from. I laughed. A deep, broken laugh. Because by then, I understood the real game. I hadn't just killed the Langford name. I had made new enemies, ones who didn't care about honor or pride or tradition. They only cared about watching me fall as hard and as long as it took. And they were willing to go all the way. I wasn't built to lay down and die. Even when everything was crumbling, even when Reach development was pulled out from under me, some part of me refused to give up. I didn't come this far to end up just another broken Langford. First thing I did was call in every favor I had left. Not many, but a few old friends still owed me. People I'd helped when they were nobodies, same as I once was. I needed information. Real dirt. Not petty stuff. Not tabloid garbage. Something that could kill careers. Took time. Weeks. Meanwhile, my world got smaller. I sold the penthouse to pay off legal fees. I moved into a 2-bedroom condo in a rougher part of the city. I drove a used Honda instead of the black Escalade I used to have. The news ran my name through the mud weekly. Reach Development erased me from their website like I never existed. Marcy, Lloyd, and Sam? They were thriving. At least it looked that way on the surface. Marcy landed a job at a rival real estate agency, the same one that stole half my old clients. Lloyd was suddenly all over social media, rebranding himself as a motivational speaker about resilience and overcoming family betrayal. What a joke. Sam managed to open his garage after all. He partnered with a tech startup that retrofitted old trucks with electric engines. They didn't just survive. They were eating off the scraps of my empire. But the deeper I dug, the more cracks I found. Marcy had fudged her licensing documents, she lied about certifications. Serious jail time if it got exposed. Lloyd was clean now, but he had unpaid back taxes that would bury him the moment the IRS took a closer look. And Sam's new garage? The tech startup funding it wasn't legit, they were under federal investigation for fraud. All I had to do was pull the trigger. One anonymous tip here. One leaked document there. One well-timed phone call. And their whole little revenge parade would crash and burn. But something kept me from doing it right away. Late one night, sitting in my empty condo, staring at a half-eaten TV dinner, I thought about Myrtle. Thought about how she whispered that curse into my ear. "You'll spend your life reaching." Maybe she wasn't warning me. Maybe she was telling me who I was. Maybe reaching wasn't the curse. Maybe it was the only thing I knew how to do. I sat there a long time, glass in hand, thinking. Finally, I stood up. I opened my laptop. I wrote 3 emails. Each one short. Each one brutal. I scheduled them to send at 6 a.m. the next morning. And then I slept better than I had in years. When I woke up the next morning, the sky was gray and heavy. Rain was coming. Felt right. At exactly 6 a.m. the emails I scheduled went out. 3 different addresses. 3 different grenades. At 6:17 a.m., the first alert popped up on my phone. Breaking news. Rising real estate star under investigation for fraudulent licensing. There was Marcy's smug face on the front page. A professional headshot she probably paid a fortune for. Now pinned beside the words criminal investigation pending. By 7:42 a.m., another headline. Motivational speaker Lloyd Langford accused of major tax evasion. The article went viral fast. Screenshots of his cheesy Instagram posts standing next to rented Lumbos, spouting fake wisdom about success were getting flooded with laughing emojis and fraud comments. And by 8:30 a.m., the cherry on top. Local auto startup partnering with Sam Langford investigated for embezzlement. The feds raided their office before lunch. Sam's garage got taped off as a potential crime scene. I sat there on my ratty couch sipping black coffee, watching it unfold live on the news. No calls came in.
No emails. No desprite apologies.
Just silence. And a deep steady thrum in my chest. By noon it was clear. I had destroyed them. Just like they tried to destroy me. But the victory tasted bitter. Because in the wreckage, there wasn't a single person left standing who knew how it all started. Myrtle's voice. That whisper. That damn curse. They thought this was about money. Or buildings. Or pride. But it was older than that. It was blood deep. It was hate passed down through marrow and memory. That night, after the news vans left, after the internet moved on to fresher scandals, I walked downtown. To reach Plaza. My statue was still there. Still standing tall. Still reaching toward the stars. I stood at the base of it, staring up, the streetlights painting the bronze in cold white. And for the first time in my life I asked myself a question. Was it ever enough? I thought standing there at Reach Plaza would bring me peace. Or pride. Or at least the kind of numb satisfaction you get when you finally finish a long, ugly job. But all I felt was hollow. I looked up at the statue, my own face frozen forever in bronze, one hand clawing upward, and for the first time, I saw the truth. It wasn't reaching for the stars. It was grasping at nothing. In the days that followed, the fallout was brutal. Marcy lost everything. Her agency dropped her like she had the plague. She tried to sue, tried to spin it, but the proof was too clear. Last I heard, she was living in a 2-bedroom rental on the edge of the city, bartending to make rent. Lloyd's brand collapsed overnight. The IRS froze his accounts, seized his car, and he disappeared from social media completely. Someone said they saw him bagging groceries at a store he once posted a motivation selfie in front of. And Sam got it the worst. When the feds came down on the tech startup, it wiped out his savings. Without the garage, without the business, he lost his home. Last I heard, he was living in a halfway house near Erie, trying to stay clean, trying to find day work fixing junkers in someone's backyard. It should have felt like justice. It should have felt like victory. But standing in my gutted condo surrounded by boxes and unpaid bills, watching the empire I built rot from the inside, I realized something Myrtle had known all along. Reaching wasn't the curse. Never having enough, that was the curse. I got a package about a month later. No return address. Inside was an old black and white photo. Myrtle, young, standing in front of the original Langford Furnishings building, holding a little plaque. On the back, written in faded pencil. You can build it higher. You can build it bigger. But it will never be yours. I laughed when I read it. A dry, broken laugh that hurt my ribs. Because she was right. Even after everything the billions made, the towers raised, the revenge served cold, I was still the kid at the family reunion, wearing a second-hand dress with a stain nobody bothered to clean, still chasing something that was never going to be handed to me, still reaching for stars that weren't mine. The Langford name was dead. The buildings were rubble. The bloodline was broken beyond repair. And my own name? Carved into bronze now. But already kids passing through Reach Plaza didn't know who I was. They took selfies in front of the statue without reading the plaque. They Googled it once, maybe, then forgot. And Myrtle? No one remembered her at all. Not even me some days. Just a voice in my head now, dry and cracked, whispering curses I was too stubborn to run from. In the end, the stars weren't for any of us. Just cold lights burning overhead. Unreachable. uncaring, waiting for all of us to be dust.